All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's OER Champions Showcase. My name is Janelle Baskin. I am the Student Success and Open Education Librarian in the Walker Library. Um, we're celebrating Open Education Week this week, so we're excited to highlight the amazing OER work that's happening right here at MTSU. And so today we're going to be highlighting a diverse panel of faculty who have embraced OER in their teaching. And they're going to be representing multiple disciplines. So we have some from aerospace, engineering technology, world languages, and English. I've asked each of them to just share their experiences with OER. They're going to speak about 10 minutes each. Some possible topics that I suggested to them are their motivations for choosing to do an OER project, kind of share their processes that they did, and kind of talk about the impact it's had on their classes, specifically student learning and engagement. So we are recording today's presentation. It will be available later on the library's YouTube channel. And the plan for today is I'm going to record only the first part of the presentations, and then I will stop the recording and we'll have about 10 minutes at the end, hopefully, for questions and answers and people that want to make comments. So let me share just a few brief things about the kind of OER landscape here at MTSU right now. So we define OER as educational materials that are free to access and are openly licensed. So that means they have special permissions to be reused, to be adapted. That's specifically great, obviously, in a course. So this could be a textbook, it could be videos, it could be slide decks, it could be a range of things, anything that could be considered a course material. We label courses that use OER as zero textbook cost in pipeline. And we do this so that students can help find those classes when they register. And so that also helps us track OER. And so since 2022, the OER initiative has saved our students approximately $2 million, which is amazing. We're getting close, I think, next semester to maybe $3 million. So that's definitely something to celebrate. All right, so we are going to dive in and give lots of time to our presenters. And so I'm going to introduce our first panelist, and I'm going to turn it over to Collin McDonald.
Hi, thanks, Janelle. So my name's Collin McDonald. I am a assistant professor here in the Aerospace department on campus. My specific concentration is professional pilot, but my faculty mentor is Dr. Kevin Corns, who is our UAS coordinator, one of the many concentrations we have in aerospace. Our project was a project to really create a study guide for students in the UAS concentration here at MTSU. And to me, it really highlights the versatility of what open education resource can be. When I kind of initially thought of it, I more or less thought of just a textbook. Like when I think of OER, that's kind of just what I thought about. But as Dr. Corns and I got into this, we were wanting to create something that was a free resource, not just for our students, but because of the funding for this is a TBR grant OER inside of the Tennessee Board of Regents. This is something that will be accessible, obviously, as curriculum. And for us, we wanted to help students prepare for what we refer to as a FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, written exam. So to operate a drone, thankfully, you have to have been licensed to do so and to pass a knowledge test. And that's what this textbook did. It allowed us to sort of train in all the areas, whether it's airspace, to just regulations in general, to performance calculations and information, weather, all of that is incorporated into that written exam. And so this allowed us to sort of curate a textbook through MTSU Pressbooks into the form of a OER resource. The way that we did this, and I wanted to pull up and show this, but unfortunately, and it's still doing it right now, the instant I logged into Zoom, Chrome crashed, and it needs me to restart everything. So I'm not going to be able to show this to you, which I hate. But in MTSU Pressbooks, we basically, the phrase is curated that we like to use. We took a bunch of other resources and just compiled them into one location. As the project went on, Dr. Corns and I actually realized there's a way to create like an instructor mode to this. And so he was able to take some PowerPoints that he was using and actually include those in the press book as well. So it's not just like text on a screen that a student's scrolling and reading through. One of the really cool things that he incorporated into this was the ability to use questions. So as a student reads through each section of the test, the student has a prompt that says, are you able to operate a drone that weighs more than 55 pounds without a commercial license? And there's a prompt. So it's like a sampling of the question from the content they're reading. So again, it's not just a cut and dry words on a screen, but there's actually an interactive component to it as well. We are already discussing maybe creating a second, not addition, but some edits to this that incorporate some potential for like some either short films or links to short films as well in future iterations of this. And what's really nice about this is it is kind of fluid. Like this test changes over time as regulations change, as things change in the industry. There will be new things that UAS operators or unmanned aircraft systems, drones, have to be familiar with. And we'll have the ability to go in and create some minor edits for that. Our motivation for this is straightforward. I know Janelle mentioned about speaking to some of this. Our students, there's cost in every corner in aviation. Like every time you turn around, there's something else that costs money. And one of the ways that we see, and this is really a department-wide mindset, as saving money is a OER type resource. Quite a bit of the FAA's publications, actually all of them, are free to access. So it's already free material. It's just potentially really poorly organized. So we can come in as subject matter experts, grab all the material we know that they need, and really efficiently create what we've called a study guide. And the impact is this is something Dr. Corns has kind of already done. It's just now an official OER unit. And the impact is going to be pretty great for our students because now those students will be able to save several $100s usually on text as well as prep material, and it's just combined into one unit. Um, Unfortunately, I cannot show that. I apologize for the crash on my end. But that's just one example of how these OERs can be used to improve student quality. And due to a crashed, yeah, I keep on trying to pull this up, Janelle. I see the message in the chat and it's just giving me a frowny face. That's really unfortunate. I apologize.
Do you want me to try to share it from my screen?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Actually, if you could do that, that would be great.
Let me see if I can break that. Just tell me where you want me to
Oh,
go.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is just our cover and the background of that. It is a study guide textbook, and if you can just click into it, Janelle. So one of the things that you can do in Pressbooks is it's very easy to like create sections or content tabs to where if a student needs to go back and review, let's say something under any of these, like loading and performance, they can jump to almost like a table of contents in a textbook. But if you don't, so if you just scroll down to the bottom of the screen, at least in the one that we created, there isn't a jump function like go to next chapter, so they will have to go back up and manually progress through. But I think if you go into, and you can pick any one of these, Janelle, any one of the topic areas. I'm just trying to look for one of those example test questions that would exist in the document. Yeah, and here's an example of that. So if the student's reading through and then they get to this, which of the following operations would be considered a commercial operation regulated under the specific reg for that? Um, and well, click Flying for Fun with Friends, just so that way we get an example here. So if you check that, it will show them you've missed it, And you might need to go back and either look at this area or retry. And then now you can click conduct operations. Oh, we missed it again. So it's sorting them. That's what's going on here. So the very bottom one now, it keeps on rotating them, Janelle, because of the way we've got the coding set up inside of it. Taking photos for a real estate agent, yeah. And then once they get it correct, they're going to see that, great, you got it. It sort of gives you that little completion status and they can move on. So this is just one of the things that we incorporated. The rest of it's just basically text that really helps students prepare for their written exam. And this is just an example of ours. Doesn't have to be anything really complicated, but then at the very end, where she's gone, we've got our educational resources. So we give a sample or example syllabus. How can you incorporate this into your class, as well as the actual PowerPoints is, I believe, what we did, these slide decks. So for each topic, each subtopic, there is really an instructor's version of the class. And you can imagine, as an OER, this is not just going to benefit students, but this is also going to help not just instructors, but maybe instructors who don't have the experience they need to develop this on their own. They'll have the experience they need to instruct with it. And that's a huge benefit of this. It's not just something that we're doing for students that are ours. It's potentially something we are doing for students that are non-ours. And as subject matter experts, we can really establish a correct mindset or a correct understanding as they're going off into the field. And in aerospace, which recently, unfortunately, has had a lot of exposure for negative things, high quality instruction is something that we especially are looking for, and we want to make sure is happening, even if it's not in our specific system. And that's basically our OER.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Collin. I appreciate that. All right. I think next we're going to go to our English group. So Dr. Kate Pantelides, Nich Krause, and Caroline LaPLue. You guys can take it away.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to share my screen.
All right, hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm just going to kick us off while Kate is getting this pulled up by introducing us. Like Janelle said, I am Caroline LaPLue, and this is Nich Krause next to me. We are both graduate teaching instructors in the English department, and then Dr. Kate Panelides is kind of our fearless leader in this, but we've worked together in the Gen Ed English program in the past working on OER, and so we kind of revived that and came back together to do this revision. And we are titling our presentation, This or That, Oh, We Are Going or the OER. And we just really had a good time coming up with this title and figuring out all the different ways that we could fit OER into our title. And we just thought that this is kind of a nice little example exhibition of the playfulness that using Pressbooks and OER kind of allow us to bring to our educational practices, and the kind of experimentation and trying new things and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then being able to go back and change it instead of having to rely on the really strict kind of publisher expectations. So that's kind of the background of our title.
Okay, so last year, like several of us here, we were awarded level 2 support. And with that, we are creating a significantly revised second edition of the OER textbook for English 1020, which is research and argumentative writing. And we have titled that OER textbook, The Ask, a More Beautiful Question, which you can see the cover for on the slide there. And so that is what we're doing with this affordable materials, the Affordable Course Materials Grant is doing a significantly revised edition of this widely used OER textbook.
And the first edition of this book we developed in 2021 with support from MTSU, from TBR, and THEC. And so this is one of 4 OERs that we've developed, and this is our first opportunity to do a revision that we're really excited about.
And as the Gen Ed program in the English department is the largest program within the True Blue Corps at MTSU, adopting OER textbooks within multiple of our classes, but particularly this 1020 book, allows us to make free or low cost, hopefully, but hopefully free, high quality, open access course materials available to almost every single student that comes through MTSU, which is something that we're really excited and proud of.
And the shift to these OER textbooks has reduced the cost for students taking first year writing by more than half, which is incredible. And during all of that, the primary authors of these OER texts in the English department have worked in collaboration with faculty who teach these first year writing courses, as Kate mentioned, to develop multiple more OERs, and 4 of them now.
And so we're about at our 4th birthday for this first OER. And so we're also reminded of the constraints. So Caroline started by talking about sort of the affordances of the platform, that we can go back as we see changes, as we want to update best practices. But we're also reminded of how important regular maintenance is. Again, because this was our first foray into OER work. Now we look back with 3 more books under our belts and cringe a little bit at some of the things that we did. And so we really appreciate the opportunity to change the work, but there's also this necessity to maintain the work, to recognize that there's different expectations for OERs to ensure that they're sustainable. And they can only be transformational if we allow them, if we really are kind of investing in their sustainability. So we really thank Janelle and the library for that work.
Yeah, so speaking of Janelle and the library, we have been extremely lucky to have the ongoing support of Janelle. We're so happy that Janelle came on board and has been doing so much work for the OER at MTSU. And one of the things that Janelle helped to head up was doing a survey in our own department, asking our students and our faculty what they thought of the OER, of the 1020 OER that we're working on now, to see if it was effective, we liked it, if it was doing the things that it was supposed to do in an effective way. And that was, I think, in the spring of 2024, and we had 132 students fill it out, which is not a huge majority by any stretch of the students who are taking 1020, but it was a great sample size that allowed us to kind of kick off starting to figure out what kinds of updates we needed to make to the book.
Yeah. And with those 132 respondents, we picked out some of the significant findings, or some of the most relevant findings that, for the purpose of this presentation, we found things from that survey, like by the first week of class, 80% of students had used the OER, which was an incredible number. And we were surprised also to see that 87% used a computer to access the OER. We were glad to see that, because we expected a much higher percentage of students accessing it on their mobile devices. Of those students surveyed, 61% found the text helpful and engaging, 31% were neutral on the text, and only 9% did not find it helpful and engaging. So over 90% were either neutral or positive toward the OER. The significant majority of the respondents found the text well organized, easy to access, and said that it helped them learn course concepts, which was great. And 75% of the students said that they found the text just as thorough and complete as quote unquote regular textbooks. So these were some of the positive findings that came out through the survey.
Helpfully, students also had recommendations for improvement. And this is really where we've paid attention in revision, which has been our work thus far. So some of them found navigating through the textbook a little bit difficult. Of course, besides being free, the fact that it was easy to use actually was the highest number here on this part of our survey. So students generally found it very easy to use. However, if we got any recommendations for improvement, it really was about navigation, more clarity on the organization. Some of this is kind of just the way the Pressbooks platform works, but we have found some ways that we're really excited about to make it easier to navigate.
And so again, like I said, accompanying the student survey, Janelle also put out a faculty survey to see what the instructors think who are having to transition from a traditional textbook to the OER, to see what they thought about it. And we had 14 faculty respond to us, and we got some good insight from them as well.
Yeah. So the faculty listed, the survey had faculty kind of rank priorities for the use of OER, and some of the top priorities that we found from faculty was finding sustained funding for OER projects, getting release time as faculty to work on OER development, moves to recognize OER work in promotion and tenure. So these are some of the things that were faculty specific for priorities. And in terms of the survey results, we also pulled out a couple of quotes that were relevant, like one faculty member said the 1020 OER at MTSU is currently organized in a confusing way. So echoing some of the concerns expressed by students. And also, this is an awesome OER. We have to adjust our pedagogy and ensure there is sufficient support for developing OERs. Once again, tapping into the priorities that these faculty members mentioned.
And we just shared with you this kind of brief snapshot of our usage data, which is pretty impressive. So 51,000 total visitors. And we have about 4,000 students in a year that come through 1020. So this is much more than our students, which is really cool. 103,000 page views. So really interesting there. And then to see, that's just the usage data basically. But then I think this is the last month where we've had the most page views and the most visitors. And this is interesting. This is just, again, a snapshot of the last month. And the things that have been looked at most in the last month are not actually indicative of what the highest page views are generally. So that is kind of interesting to us to see why is everybody looking at applying APA citations this month and they haven't been really before. So we like that this doesn't necessarily give us definitive information. It gives us really good places for asking questions about the way that people are using the OER.
So what we have worked on so far, we've been meeting regularly as a team to make a comprehensive list of all of the updates that are needed based on the survey results and based on our own analysis and evaluation of what the actual issues are in the current 1020 OER. So far we have cloned it. So we've created our own version, a kind of second edition that we will do a one-for-one swap once we're finished editing it, so that there hopefully will be kind of a seamless transition once we're ready with our finalized version. But the place that we have been focusing the most so far, just in the past month or so that we've been really focusing on getting a lot done in this, has been the table of contents. So we created this little graphic for you all to see a little bit of the before and after of how extensive our table of contents has been from the 2021 version of the 1020 OER, where we had 15 different chapters focus on a variety of different things that made sense when we first did it a few years ago, but now looking back at it, a lot of people are saying, we don't know what we're looking at here. It's very confusing. So there on the left, you can see the comparison of what we have now created, which is a much more streamlined new table of contents that is now, instead of dividing up chapters based on concepts. We are focusing them primarily on the actual steps of the research process, which is how many of our 1020 courses are structured. So with our new design, hopefully instructors and students will be able to kind of just go chapter by chapter as the course goes along in a very orderly and chronological way, instead of having to do a lot of extra research reading all over the textbook in different places to try and pull specific things that are useful to them.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a broad overview of our project and our vision for our revisions as we work, and we look forward to any questions that you all might have at the end of it.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have done a lot of work just since January 1. They literally just started on this revision like in January. So they've already just like jumped full ahead into it. And those stats are amazing. So that's one thing I really like about Pressbooks, that you can go in and see what pages people are actually looking at, where they're coming from, what websites are pointing them to your page. So that's good information to have. Okay. All right. Thank y'all. We'll do some questions here in just a few minutes. Next, we're going to go to our engineering technology faculty. So we'll do Dr. Elissa Ledoux and Dr. Hongbo Zhang.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Elissa. I'm teaching mechatronics engineering here at MTSU, and I'm going to talk about 2 OER projects because I was on 2 different teams over this past year. Okay, can y'all see? Oh, I think that's the wrong screen. Do y'all see like a normal screen, or does it look like a presenter side screen?
It's showing your presenter side right now.
Okay, let me unplug my second monitor and try that again. Okay. So I first discovered OER last year when Tennessee Board of Regents released a grant. And I just was on the mass email that they sent out, and I thought, oh, open educational resources like free textbooks sounds like such a great idea. So basically, I found the grant, I found some collaborators, and launched a couple of projects. So the 2 projects that I did that I'm going to talk about today, one is where I was leading a team to do an engineering capstone book with some collaborators at East Tennessee State University, Mo and Uden, Nick Matta, and Matthew Shepard. And then another project that I'm on is Dr. Hongbo Zhang is leading here at MTSU, and I'm collaborating with him. And then we have another teammate, Vishwas Bedekar. So the goals here were really to reduce the cost of education for students, as well as share my materials and learn from what other people were doing. So what we did, developing OER for engineering. The first book I'm going to talk about is the Engineering Capstone book. So this is a guide to senior design for engineering and engineering technology. This is the one I did with collaborators at East Tennessee State. And the reason that we wanted to make this one is because engineering capstone, or also known as senior design class, varies quite widely from across majors, across different student projects. So for example, you might have 10 senior capstone projects going on, and every team is building a different machine. So they design, they build, they test a machine that they totally invent themselves. And it can be overwhelming for professors to teach a class like that. And so since I had figured out a good workflow for it, I was interested in seeing how they do it at other schools, and then combining our resources so that we can make something that engineering capstone instructors everywhere who might be overwhelmed or be looking for like specific topics to cover would be able to use this book. And the other one is a robotics and controls engineering textbook. So this covers multiple courses. The robotics part of it is one that I focused on, and then my colleague Hongbo did the controls portion of the textbook. So we're using it in 2 different courses. The robotics is sort of the prerequisite for the controls. So why use or develop OER? For me, it was because textbooks are expensive. So these are a couple of common robotics textbooks. You can see that like average cost is over $100. And if you get the online version, it can be a little bit cheaper, but many of these are just overwhelmingly expensive for students who have to afford gas and housing and pay their tuition and all of that kind of thing. As well as many of them are over students' heads. So a lot of these particular topics were written at a graduate level, and we wanted something that would be a little bit more on the level of undergrad. So I'm going to open up now the actual book. So this is our book in Pressbooks. So here in the introduction, it has an overview of the way the book is set up. So we did it in 3 phases and assigned different chapters to each person. So I was responsible for this first part, which is the theory and applications of robotics. So one thing that conventional robotics textbooks do not really cover is application. So these chapters here on industrial robots and end-of-arm tool design, or like the claw, those are things that we could contribute that are really like to really fill a gap in what's currently available. And then some of the normal math topics you'll see here. And then Vishwas developed some references for his student robotics club to do. So they build little robots. They compete. There's like small battle bots, or there's a micro mouse that navigates a maze, different things like that. And they go to national competition every year. So this is sort of a guide for his students to use in the club, that they can have a good design map for their robot. And then the last set of chapters, Hongbo developed these, and these are on control, so different types of controllers and control modeling. So we'll go into a little bit of the book. I'll talk about the robotics first, and then Hongbo will discuss the controls. So looking at here at the industrial robotics chapter, you can see that it covers a lot of different types of like applications, and then some of the really practical things students need to do is like how to choose the right robot to do a specific job and how to model and simulate it. So there's text here. There's also links that go to the particular manufacturer's websites. And then one thing that was really neat about Pressbooks is that we could load in a YouTube video, and then we can also set it to pause the video at certain points so that a question pops up. So you'll see here as the video is going through, I turn the volume off so you can't hear the talking, but this is going through how to spec a particular robot and choose it for a job. And then the video will pause. You'll see it says here, click for question. So the students can click on the question and then actually answer it here in the video to see if they understood what just got said. And then like Collin showed, there are also ways to put in these little embedded quizzes so that students can choose an answer and then check themselves. So this also allows you to type math. So if we go into the this chapter, one of the hardest things to do for an engineering textbook is type math. So like it's so much harder to type than words, but Pressbooks allows you to do that and to format it so that it can look nice. So you can see here that there are some videos, but there's also some mathematical equations. And then we also have embedded some slides where you can click on these, they'll bring up the slides in a new tab. And so the students can print these and follow along with the video or follow along in class with the instructor. So next we'll cover the controls. Hongbo, would you like to unmute and then choose a specific chapter and I'll show it?
Yes. Hi there, guys. Sorry. Hi. Yes. So I think here is, thank you for attention. So this textbook was written, I think mostly last year, I think, and this year we try to use it. So particularly, this textbook including robotics and control here. So for example, it is including a few chapters control, right? So the control is actually is a little bit difficult to control. It's not something like an easy control, but we try to make it less difficult. And so the point being here is try to make hopefully make it very detailed, and so students have less hard time to do it. So in total, this control including I think 7 chapters. And mostly the first chapter Elissa is showing right now is Introduction to State Space. And so this is actually fundamental to like advanced control. So mostly we use state space control. The reason you use state space because is actually kind of like a cornerstone for modern control. Actually, most of this knowledge, actually most of them actually in graduate level, but I try to make this into level so undergrad student can follow. So we give pretty detailed equations, right? And also showing some like examples. Yeah. So drawing some diagram to showcase students how to follow better. Again, I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's better than my previous textbook, which is disaster. Students read it, they had no clue, absolutely no clue. And no one have clues. Everyone got lost. Yeah, I mean, textbook is disaster. It was disaster. But I try to use compensing that use my lecture notes. But now I feel I have better time. Students feel a little happier. That's how I can put it. Thank you.
All right. So the second book that we did, this was with East Tennessee State University, was Engineering Capstone. So these are 3 books on engineering capstone. Again, these are all expensive. And one of the reasons that many instructors don't even use a book for capstone because it is hard to find a good one and because the projects are so diverse. And so it can be really hard to find a good workflow. So the way that we structured this book was not necessarily assigning specific chapters to each person, but rather to build these around the ABET criteria. So ABET is the accreditation board for engineering and technology, and there are certain criteria that each course has to meet in an accredited program, but the capstone course has to meet all of the criteria. So sometimes it can be overwhelming to try and figure out how do you get 1 direct or 2 direct measures or 1 indirect measure of an assessment for every single criteria. And so we made an entire chapter that was devoted to each one. So you wouldn't necessarily work through this book in a linear fashion, like starting with chapter 1 and ending with chapter 7. You would just pull assignments based on whatever you need for your class at that particular time in their design process. We added an 8th chapter on career readiness because this is something that's not really covered in any class, but that students need to know. And so when they're a senior, that they really need to know it. And so this will help them prepare for jobs. So the way that we've set up each of the chapters in this book, I'll go to one as an example here. So this module is on design, and at the beginning of each chapter, we say which particular student outcomes for engineering and engineering technology it meets, and then a definition of the topic. And within each of these subtopics, we have it set up so the student will receive information. So this is text or video or downloadable slide deck or all of the above. And then it includes an activity that's related to their project. And so these particular activities are not specific to a certain type of project, but they help guide the design and prototyping and testing process for all students, no matter what their project is. So that's the way that this book is set up, and we're piloting it in our classes this semester. We spent last semester on development, but right now we're using it in 4 different capstone courses across both of our schools in several different majors. So we're excited to see from student feedback afterwards of what they like about it and how we can improve. So going back to the PowerPoint, other reasons for using or developing OER is that in engineering, there is not a lot out there. So if you scan this QR code, this will take you to the Engineering Libraries division where there is some free OER. Most of this deals with CAD or thermodynamics or programming. And None of those actually are classes that I teach. So there is OER in those particular areas, but we're lacking it in some of the other areas of engineering that are more focused on like mechanical or electrical or industrial, or even the basic classes. So I also wanted to learn from collaborators, and goals of the Board of Regents, I think, for putting out these grants is that it will help to reduce professor development time and standardize courses across the different schools in our state. So if we can use the same book and the same courses across different schools, then it'll be so much easier for students who are transferring from one to another, and everything is just a little bit more streamlined. It's easier to keep track of things. So a couple of things that we learned through doing this OER project, how to do one from start to finish, because I had never done one of these before and I didn't really know what to expect. But the workflow that we came out with was organize, implement, and polish. So the first step here is organization. You want to, anything needs an organized plan really to be successful. Otherwise, it is just an overwhelming nightmare. So the first step in the organization is to source OER. So going to a database that has OER in it, and your librarian can direct you to these. Our books are on OER Commons and also in MTSU's library, because you might actually find that OER already exists for the particular class or topic that you're going to teach, and then you don't need to create it. Or you might be able to build off of what exists already. So then finding resources, your librarian, what software you're going to use, anything like YouTube videos, anything that's free, basically it's considered open access and you can put it in your OER and then make a plan. So assigning different tasks to different people. So like who's going to develop what materials, that way everybody knows what they're responsible for. The next phase is implementation. So teamwork is really important here, making sure that each person knows what they're supposed to be working on and having some accountability so that you don't end up with scrambling at the last minute for anything. And then once everybody's got their assignments, you'll compile them. So have everybody put their materials into a shared drive where you can see based on your outline of what needs to be done of like, okay, what do we have here? And then what do we need to create? So the next step is creating new stuff if there are gaps that need to be filled. And so then once all of the materials are there, then you can conduct an internal review, like ensuring the quality and the correctness of all of the materials that are there and giving each other feedback for improvement. The final phase is polishing. So this is really like where it becomes to look more like a book. So we first revised everything from our feedback with each other and then formatted it into the Pressbook software. Not all libraries or not all schools will have a Pressbook subscription, but there are other free softwares out there that you can also use. So then once it is formatted in the book, before you release it to the public, it has to go through an external review. So this just ensures that all materials in there are compliant with OER so that you haven't like taken a diagram or a photo or something from a paid textbook or from some copyrighted source. And our librarian was able to do this for us and had some really great feedback. We also, when we upload our book to the OER Commons, then the people there who run that hub make sure that it's also compliant. And then finally, we published it, so making it open access so that anyone who has that URL can access it anywhere. And then there is also a way in Pressbooks to make it downloadable so that students can download it to their desktop and either print it or not have to have internet access to use it. So in conclusion, making OER is really fun. I didn't realize how much fun it was going to be, but once I got into it, it's so exciting to work on something that you know is really going to make a difference to students and that you're going to be able to see that difference. The digital possibilities are endless. So like making the downloadable documents so that they can follow along with their slides, interactive videos and quizzes so that they can check their knowledge, making it accessible so they don't have to pay any money, they can view it from anywhere. All of those are really great aspects of OER. And then being organized is extremely important. So for one of the projects that we were on, the capstone book, we had a really organized workflow. Everybody knew what they were supposed to work on. And we started this in the summer and we finished several months early, actually, so that we had plenty of time for review and revisions. The other project was a little bit rockier, but we all learned through the experience and got a lot more familiar with also being able to read each other's work and then learn from those things when it's not classes that we normally teach. So practice accountability is a really good idea to have regularly scheduled team meetings so that people have certain deadlines to get stuff done by. And ask your librarian for help because Janelle was so helpful with directing us to like how to use the software, how to add the plugins. She helped me find the collaborators at East Tennessee State University, and she knows where all of the grants are. So she's a really good resource with if you have any questions about OER. So know also that by doing this kind of thing, you're making a difference. So you're saving money for students, you're saving time for professors, and those are things that everybody can appreciate. So, Hongbo, did you have anything else that you wanted to add about your experience doing this?
No, not too much. I think Janelle is really the person to go, I think, and without her help, I don't think we can make it. We absolutely no clue, when we started. But with a couple like meetings, emails, we're able to get it, I mean, and we actually got like how many chapters? We got like 5. We got a lot of chapters in our book. Many chapters. Yes, I feel pretty happy, whatsoever we get done, Yes.
Thank y'all so much. I just want to say you guys did a crazy amount of work in a short amount of time because they got, especially Elissa was on 2 of these projects, and within like 6 months time, she had to put out these 2 different OERs. And so that was a lot of work. And I think it's really important. It's going to impact a lot of students because especially in the STEM fields, there is a gap. There's not a lot of things out there right now. And those books are so expensive for students to buy. So you're definitely making a difference. So thank you so much. All right, our last one, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Joan McRae.
All right, let's see if I can condense my presentation down into 90 seconds. So first of all, everything everybody else said about why to use OER. I teach French, and so the textbook that we are coming up with, although I shouldn't call it a textbook, I am doing in collaboration with Kim Godwin from Education and Anne McCullough from French, and we're creating basically some teaching materials to use for French 1010, which has gotten to be more important because we're now back in the curriculum in the True Blue core, and so we're relevant again, which is really exciting. So yeah, those are the reasons why we use it. Mostly I wanted, the thing that I have really to say is I'm impressed with how you all are considering your books as finalized or textbook ready. I think of mine as a consolidated lesson plan, which is ever evolving. And I am a champion not of the press books, but of the number of edits that I have put into my press book. So I'm not a grant winner, but I am a champion of the number of edits that I have put in. So I'm going to show you all what Kim Godwin, Anne McCullough, and I have put together. First, I'm going to show you what we're trying to avoid. This is what a typical language textbook looks like, which you'll all remember maybe from your high school years. And so this is what I'm trying to move away from. And so I have created, with the help of my colleagues, let's see, I got a screen share here. Keeps jumping away from me. I'm on my laptop, makes it a little harder. So what we're trying to use is real language. I want to introduce students not to book French, but to real French. And so we cobbled together these resources which bring the language to life in the classroom, and then also engage students. And I'm trying to target not just students in the classroom, but also online students. So here is my table of contents. I've got 5 chapters, and there are 4 in each. And essentially, each one of these is a lesson plan that will last 1 or 2 days. So, for example, I start, here's a, this is about my age and my birthday. And so we start with a video to capture their attention. And then there's a little verb conjugation here. I'm scaffolding the information that they're going to need in order to be able to say how old they are and what their birthday is. So we do a little verb conjugation, then we've got the H5P so that they can apply their knowledge. Then there's another pedagogical video. Then here you can record yourself and listen to yourself to see if you sound like the video. They can also download that and upload it then into D2L. We've got some recordings here so that not only do they get to see the language, but they also get to hear it. And then a little gamification to get them to practice what they learned from the video. It's a knowledge check. We are trying to figure out how to do the leaderboards so that the classmates can compete with each other. Then we've got more vocabulary acquisition along with the audio so that they can listen. Here's a link to a little poetry, and they can listen to the video, which is going to be slow. Oh, there we go. And then a catchy tune, Quelle est la date de ton anniversaire, which I hope the students will continue to sing all day. And then finally, the ultimate test, did you learn what you were supposed to learn here? So I know that we don't have much time, so I'm going to stop there and just say, did we, what is our impact? Well, cost savings, student engagement, and Kim Godwin and I are working with a graduate student now to measure the student engagement and how the gamification influences that. So we'll find out more about that. We've also just been added to the Merlot site, which is a little daunting because I'm always changing this textbook. When I say always, I mean after every lesson in class. But mostly I see this press book as a living document that's constantly evolving, that I'm continually updating. And that's all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody sharing. I wanted to have this time to just kind of celebrate everyone's work, because a lot of time this work goes unnoticed, and it can feel like no one notices what you're doing, but I want you to know that we do notice. It impacts students. It's important. We appreciate it. And I really appreciate you sharing it to show other people how you've done it, because it helps to, I'll envision this as being a kind of a show and tell of the people that are interested in it can come later and see how exactly, from start to finish, you create these projects. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.